Still stuck with reports that no one reads? You don't need more data, you need the right steps. In this Zebra BI webinar, Tilen and Mark will break down the exact 5-step method to turn your Power BI dashboards from overwhelming to insightful and actionable. Let's dive into the 5 steps that top performing companies use to make Power BI reports that actually drive decisions.
Welcome to Zebra BI's webinar number 47. That's a number we can be proud of, right? Well, let me share you one more exciting figure. Did you know that as much as 97% of Fortune 500 companies use Power BI for business intelligence? And that for the 17th consecutive year, Microsoft has been positioned as the leader for analytics and business intelligence platform. Now, based on these statements, benefits that their Power BI brings to businesses when used properly, of course, should be clear. So let me here ask Mark, what do you like the most about the Power BI? Which features do you see most benefit?
Yeah, now that's an excellent question, Tilen. So I think it's best if you answer this yourself. So, dear audience, just write in the chat what is the feature that you love the most, or the thing that you love about Power BI the most. But maybe even like something that you don't like, right? So let's hear it directly from you. But just my personal favorite is, since Power BI really allows you to, or everyone basically, to get to your insights and build actionable reports with ease, right? So just the entire package allows you to scale and do everything and actually bring that power from your data. I think this is the key aspect of Power BI, right? So there's a lot of things that you could highlight, but let's take it up back a step, right? So how do we actually do this, right? Because when we're talking with a lot of our clients, our people starting in Power BI, we notice this enthusiasm, right? So you want to jump in straight away and start right using this new tool and so on, and you want to immediately like migrate from existing reporting structures, whether it's this I don't know, Tableau or Excel or whatever you're using basically for your report systems currently, and then you want to bring this into Power BI and just start building the reports, right? But it typically doesn't go as smoothly, right? So you have this one single flat table or maybe several tables, and then you want to just build out of it, right? And this is not how you should start, right? It is really important, and this would be my key message here, that to ensure that everyone can really leverage the power of Power BI, you need to follow first some simple steps, but it makes the life of everyone working with these tools and just within the organization, it makes everyone's lives easier. So the first step would be to make sure that you prepare your data, right? And model and do a proper data model. So those are 2 steps, like clean and transform your data and ensure that you do a proper data model. Now, these 2 steps will invariably ensure that you will start up on the right track. And when you talk about data prep and data modeling, people immediately like freeze up. You know, they think it's so hard and so on. But I want to show you that in fact it's really not that hard. Right? Everyone should be able to do it. It's really simple, but you should do it, right? And we'll explain why and so on a bit later. And the second thing is that the star schema or the proper data model is the way to go in 99% of your semantic models, right? And if you ensure those 2 steps, right? So simple data model, it will also transfer into simple DAX and in this case, simple is good, right? And then after that, we want to, of course, visualize everything, right? We want to use the key elements of actionable reporting, like variance analysis, KPIs, tracking against your targets, and so on. And if we ensure this, it means that we will have a report that does not need an expert for the viewers to decipher the numbers, right? So we will not need another person or somebody to just explain the report. The report should visualize those insights itself, right? So that's our goal, to basically showcase how you can build this and then ensure proper adoption of these new reporting things, and then just guide you through those basic steps. So yeah.
Exactly, that's spot on, Mark. So here we're also showing this webinar is going to be all about what actually Mark was describing right now, but showing hands-on how this actually looks like. And to showcase this, we're going to be focusing actually on two use cases. First is showing or using the sales data to build the sales report, and also to address the specific of financial statements. We're going to be actually creating the same looking reports as you can see on the screen right now. So yeah, a bit of house cleaning. My name is Tilen. I'm a lead BI consultant at Zebra BI. I do have passion for business intelligence, data visualization, and also financial analysis. With my background in consulting and finance, I do like to help companies simplify their reporting. So bringing complex reports into something that is really meaningful and that brings value to the businesses. And Mark, I'll give the board back to you to present yourself shortly.
Yeah, so I'm also here, yours truly, Mark Leskovšek. So I'm a senior BI specialist with Zebra BI, and now almost 4 years here. And my job is basically to ensure that you and everyone basically understands how to leverage these awesome tools that we can use, learn from each other, gather feedback, and integrate it in the best ways possible. So yeah.
Okay, so the only thing before we jump into the hands-on experience and the joyful stuff, so I'm gonna actually, did you know what to expect actually? I'm gonna be first handing backward again to Mark. He's gonna share Power BI desktop and show you how to organize and build star schema data model, then also how to then go one step further and build or use the advanced data visualization techniques so you can get to those amazing reports. Then you're gonna hear again from me. I'm gonna address some specific requirements of financial statements and how we can address those in the Power BI. And then obviously we're gonna do a quick recap, share some key learnings which you should take with you, along with the resources and download links that we will provide you. And yeah, here I will also kindly invite you to ask your questions in the chat. We do have colleagues who will answer them during the session, but some of the most interesting ones will actually be addressed by me and Mark at the end of the presentation. And yeah, everyone who registered for the webinar will receive reporting in tomorrow or on Friday. So don't worry about it. Yes, but without further ado, housekeeping is done. So Mark, screen will now be yours to share. So go ahead and amaze us as you always do.
Excellent. Okay, so just taking the screen, waiting for it to pop up. And there we go. Yes, that's typically the place that we'll start, right? So we'll go over two most common scenarios that we encounter. So one is, of course, starting from a consolidated table, right, where you have all your data. And then, as I said, you're eager to start in Power BI. You jump into Power BI and you try to bring this data to life now, right? So what you do, right, immediately you have all this interactive icons and so on, and just to familiarize yourselves with the report, right? Typically you will just see a blank canvas, right? And then you have several views here that you can switch between, like report view, table view, model view, and so on. But how do we actually get this data now in Power BI, right? So the first step would be just to get data. And in this case, where we have an Excel workbook, we can just connect it from there, right? So we simply select it here, we open it, and this will basically give us the right connection. We see the preview here, we select our source data, and when we select the table, right, we then either load it directly or transform it. Now, my my personal recommendation is that you should always like just do the first cleaning and prepping, right? So the first step we said is clean and transform your data, right? So you'll click this, right? And in that case, you will actually get to this view, right? So in your case, you would just see this one table now, then import it into your report, and then it will basically look something like this, right? So we do have our data. We have some time periods on which we have this. So we have the year and month columns. We do have some dimension or attributes by which we want to, of course, look at this data, right? So profit center hierarchy, so level 1, level 2, region, and then our metrics, right? These are the important columns, right? We have metrics for sales, cost, gross profit, sales previous year, cost previous year, and gross profit previous year. Now that's great, right? Then we could just start visualizing this directly in Power BI, right? So instead of like doing any sort of data preparation, people just import this data, have this table, and then they start dropping the data and so on. Now, why this is maybe not the best case, of course you can do this, right? To just familiarize yourself with the tools. And here we see like there's a lot of visualization options and stuff that you can use them straight away. But it's better to just clean your data first, because it makes all the rest of the steps, the maintenance, building additional objects and so on later on so much easier. So what do we want to do, right? So the first thing is we want to first have a clean data table, right? And then reference it and organize it into a proper star schema data model. Now, what is a star schema data model, right? This is important, but it's not hard, right? So if we go into the model view, this is what we want to achieve, right? We want to achieve our main table, which is a fact, right? So that it has all our metrics, our transactional data, and everything. And then we want to basically add dimension tables around it, by which we will filter the data. And it is important for us to do so because, as I said, it will ensure that your Power BI is optimized, right? That you have the right objects, that everything is working nice and smoothly, that you can, that especially because of performance as well, right? So this is one of the most important things, right? If you do the data modeling well, you will inevitably have good performance from the get-go, and then be able to really scale the reports and work on top of it, right? But if you skip these steps, you can quickly fall into some traps. So this is what we want to achieve. Now, if we go back to our Power Query view, right? How do we actually do this from this one table? So the best way to do this is to actually reference this main table that's already kind of cleaned up, right? Just the base data, and then work from there on, right? So we want to get to a view that's really efficient, that works fast, and that we can then build our dimensions around this, right? So the first step is, of course, this. We reference this table, so we start like this. Now, there are several things that really ensure that we can work with the model later on. And one of the things is that we should probably do some transformations, right? And one of the things here is we have year and months columns as separate values here. But in order for Power BI to leverage some time intelligence functions and so on, it's always better to create a separate calendar table. Now, for this, we need a date column. And since we don't have it yet here, we can actually create it out of these two columns. So it's good to actually have aggregated data. That's better than to have it on a daily and monthly level for this kind of reporting, right? But we still want to have this date column to work with, right? So we can actually select these two columns and transform them or merge them into a year-month column, and out of that column we can generate a date. Okay, so basically we can just select these two columns by holding down Control or Shift and then right-click and merge columns. Right. So as I already did this step, this will actually add a new step, but basically we can add a separator. Right. So we'll just do a custom separator like this, and this will actually transform into a new, you can rename it however you want. So maybe year, month, right? And this will now then transform it into a year, month column. If you click OK, you will get to this part, right? So you basically join the two columns into one. And this gives us now a great way to allow Power BI to build a date column out of this exact column. And because we can leverage some of the cool stuff that Power BI does, we can actually add a new column based on this. So we can go to Add Column, Column from Examples here, and from Selection, right? So this means that we will basically generate a column out of this same selection, right? Okay, so if we do this, okay, again, I'll try to demonstrate this, right? We can just simply start writing the code, right? So I can go in here, write in date, and then start typing, right? And if I just double click, it will already give me some information. And I can just enter the end of the month, in this case, as my date, so that I get the date columns. And this would be a perfectly good explanation. Now, if I move down, you see Power BI will automatically fill this in. And in this way, we can generate a date column. Now, because we already did this step, right, we basically insert the date column here, right? And we get the date column. So if we wanted to be really efficient, we could even remove this this original column to just keep the date column there. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need to separate the dimensions out, right? So that we don't repeat those columns in text format, right? Because text is not as efficient if we just have IDs or integers. And this is really simple, right? So it's not hard. Basically, we reuse the same source table, okay? We reference it again. And then out of the profit centers, so we just select these two and remove other columns, okay? We select the profit center level 2, so our lowest or highest granularity in this hierarchy, and we say remove duplicates, right? So we right click, remove duplicates, and this makes a nice clean table that doesn't have repeated values. And the last thing that we need to do for this to become a proper dimension, so that we can then merge it back to the sales or fact table, is we need to add an index column, right? So we'll add an index column, we'll start from 1, and voila. You can also rename it and so on, but this gives us first a way to merge back these numbers instead of text into the main fact table, but also to then sort this by the numbers, right? So we can sort this column by our index. And this way we create the profit center like dimension, okay? So I don't need this table because we already did this, right? So I'll just simply delete it. And we do the same for the region. Now, how do we actually bring this back so that we only keep the region ID and profit center ID as our columns in the fact, right? We select the two tables, right? So we take sales and region, okay? And we either go to the home tab, and here we can click merge queries, right? Now, this actually allows us to select both tables, right? So region and sales. And now I can basically select the region but yeah, in this case, we would have to have the text field still. So you select the text field in the sales and the region, the text field in the region by which you actually merge that table, right? So you select these two, okay? Region and region in the sales fact table. And once you click OK, okay, this will now generate a column that's basically referencing that merge table. So we're merging on those values of the text. And all you need to do is then click on this icon to expand it to the region ID, right? To get the region ID, and we can just name it. So we remove this original column name as prefix. So we get to basically the profit center ID and region ID, and then we can remove the region and the profit center, both profit center columns out of it. So by simply we select one column, right click and remove other columns, and then we get to this interaction controls, and we simply remove the items that we don't need, right? We could even remove this column as well, but I'll just keep it for now. Okay, and in this way, we've actually built the two objects that we need to demonstrate. Now, in the end, you hit close and apply, and you will see now these tables directly available to you. And all you need to do then to ensure that now we have a proper star schema data model and that everything is connected, right? In the model view, you simply just drag and drop the region into the region ID, into the sales table, like this, right? We already have this connection, and do the same for the profit center. Okay, so now we've generated those two dimension tables by which we will filter, right? And we can again just hide the elements in the view mode, right? Here, so we just see, so we hide the sales fact table, and we hide all the unnecessary ID columns, right? So just to have the things that we need in the report, right? And this makes it much easier to then use in our reports when we'll be building all of the later objects. Now, we mentioned that we want to create a calendar table instead of just reusing the date field that is available in our single table, right? Because Power BI will actually generate an automatic calendar table out of each date field, right? So we want to prevent this, so we turn this off, and we actually generate our own calendar table. Now, I won't actually go into the entire code. We actually have an article that shows you how to reuse either a calendar table through DAX, right? So you basically can just enter a table either in here. So you just enter a new table and paste this DAX code, and it will reference your date field out of which it will, or all the possible dates, right? So from the first one to the last one, and out of those, it will generate a calendar table. Now, the rest of the columns generate the typical time periods that you need, and this is now the way how to use those in Power BI. Now, why is this important? Because if we create a proper calendar table, we can then leverage Power BI's time intelligence, right? For previous year, for periods, and so on later on. So once we have this, we have all the dimensions we need, and we simply just connect the date field back into the sales table, and we can now start building the reports, right? So we did the first thing, we cleaned and transformed our data. We implemented a proper star schema data model. Now is important for us to implement best practices of data visualization. Now, some of the things that we need to focus on are, of course, the layouts, the design, and how to actually visualize our data in the most efficient way, right? And we can leverage, of course, any sort of visualizations that we have in Power BI, so in the visualizations pane, but not all the visualizations will actually allow you to follow those design practices by default. So what we'll showcase now are 3 visuals, so Zebra BI cards, Zebra BI charts, and Zebra BI tables that handle all of these best practices of data visualizations or international business communication standards and implement them by default. So that means none of you needs to actually follow those and so on, because it will be hard for anyone to basically make it so that you don't follow those best practices.
And Mark, this is really this is the place where you actually make a difference for the end users. If you do the front foundation, then this is now the place and time where it's not just for you, it's also for the end user, and this is how you will benefit him as well.
Exactly. And because we did all those steps, everything now will just fall into place, right? We don't need to write hard measures. We don't need to do all sorts of data modeling solutions with DAX, right? We are not solving our data modeling issues with DAX, but we just simply build some measures. It's like simple measures, okay? So you just add a new measure, you do a summarization on your sales column in the sales fact, and you do the same for previous year or costs and so on. It's just simple one line of code, not 40, not 50. And because we have also the calendar field, even if we didn't have the previous year, we could just simply create the previous year measure out of our existing measures. So we would say costs previous year equals to, we'll start with a calculate, right? And then we will simply reference our costs actual, right? And because we used the calendar, we can now reference the date field in the calendar to basically create a previous period or previous year out of that. So we simply do date add, we reference our date, so calendar date, right? Calendar date, move it 1 year backwards, right? So number of interval backwards, and we say year. So it's simple, and we can just hit enter, and Power BI will actually add the closing parentheses and so on. So this will be just to demonstrate how you can also generate a simple measure out of existing data, even if it's not already in your data model, right? So when we have all these structures, we can really easily build them. But of course, the final part is the visualization itself. So when we start building our dashboards, we should think about the layout, the audience that will be watching, and we want to start with top level overview and then move into details. But yes, start with the basics and then move onward. So for this, we'll start with Zebra BI cards with our top level KPIs, and we'll simply drop them into the canvas. Now, because we have those objects really easily available, we can just add our actual data, our previous data, and you see the visualization will be taken care of, right? So design, layout, insights, so automatic variances are generated out of this. Now, if we want to understand this on any of the dimensions that we created, like regions, we can just simply drop them into the group placeholder. And as you see, now if I expand, this will now give me a bigger area with which I can work with. And you can do a lot of transformations and so on, but this is not really that important. At the top level, you will find a layout changer, and we can switch to the uniform layout, right? So this allows us to basically resize all of these cards to something like this, okay? And it allows us to understand how we are doing on each of those regions. Now, one benefit of showing your KPIs or cards in this way, in a multi-card visual, is that you can leverage this later on to cross-filter the entire dashboard, right? Use the interactivity of Power BI to cross-filter, to select, and get deeper insights into each of those categories. But it also allows us to properly scale all of these metrics between each other, right? So we don't need to add a new slicer for each of those regions for our end users to then be able to walk through the data, but we can actually use the cards themselves. And because this is just a single Power BI object, it also has the added benefit of reduced impact on your performance, right? This is also one of the topics, but it's not the main thing we want to point out in this webinar. So I mentioned we want to scale all of these cards. So the second icon in each of those cards allows us to do just that. To properly scale all of the cards, we simply just click on all of them. And now when I'm done, I simply click OK. And now you see that those are now properly scaled between each other. Now, this is an often overlooked point when we're building dashboards and introducing visualizations, but it really allows us to keep our focus where the impact is happening, right? Okay, so now that we've dealt with the cards, we can do a proper structural breakdown. And for this, we will use the Zebra BI tables. Now, the tables themselves can leverage the same objects, right? It's just a different type of visualization to create a different structural breakdown. So in this case, we will add our sales, our sales previous year, right? And you can see automatic variances generated out of it, right? So variance analysis is of course important. And then we add the profit center into the category. So this is the first level of the hierarchy. And now if we expand or collapse, we can see that it is all responsive. We can play around with the different views, right? So we can switch from just numbers and have like just variance analysis, right? So we can introduce different types of charts in the columns that we need, or we can visualize everything. So there's a lot of things, but just out of the box, Zebra BI will actually do this proper variance analysis for you. Now we can also introduce a hierarchy like this, right? So we'll drop another level and then we simply expand down, right? And now we have a bit of a more detailed report, but we see where we're doing well and not on sales. And as I said before, we can easily just cross-filter for all of the regions, right? To see wherever we're doing well or poorly, and we can easily just sort it by the worst or best performing units compared to previous year. But everything is nicely visualized, right? We keep our attention and we give information directly to our viewers. And the last part of it is, of course, we also need to showcase trends, right? And in this case, we can use the Zebra BI charts, right? We follow the same building blocks for actuals, for previous year, but in this case, we want to break them down either by month or quarter. And because we did the proper data modeling, right, we can now have everything nicely connected. If we want to make this a bit smaller, you see, we can make it so, but we also can still want to make use of visualization. So if this is not the chart type that it takes too much space, we can maybe switch it to this size dots. But still, we can now still see our performance nicely highlighted, and we can even sort by the relative or absolute variance like this. Okay. So we now have enough space also for the charts, right? We can extend it maybe further in this case. And we can use any of the charts options, but again, the layout, the design elements, the interactivity, right? So even if we make this smaller, right, we can still click on the labels and just showcase everything, all the insights into your performance directly on the visualization itself, right? So we don't need to think about how to design, how to ensure proper formatting of each element. The visuals can take care of this by themselves. Now, what we wanted to actually build, of course, is this entire sales reports, right? So once you actually build your objects, you can also add additional insights, right? Commentary directly to the data fields. So we can even add annotations and storytelling features. And this is the next step, right? Once you actually visualize the data, gather the insights and present them through visualization, because this is actionable reporting, right? So the report itself should tell you where the actions should be needed or where you need to spend your attention.
Yeah, Mark, it's a next step, but it's a quite an important step, at least how I see it. You know, these are the elements. This is actually the commenting annotation is often the element that we kind of miss in customer reports. So yeah, quite an important one, I think.
Yes. It adds information that is typically missing in your data, right? So and this can really enhance your communication. So basically, all you need to do is you can add comments directly on the visual level just by filtering some of the reports, right? And then you spot something, you can simply just add a comment directly on that data point, right? And then you save it, it persists, and it gets stored, right? And then whenever somebody else will look at it, or even in the if you want to like look at historical data, you know exactly what was the reason behind this underperformance and so on. So this is really a strong feature in allowing you to build these reports. Now, as you see, it's not really hard if you have the right tools, right? And we can simply just reuse this same page, right? If we want to do also a cost reporting analysis, right? And here, just the context changes. So basically, we would simply duplicate this page, right? Click and duplicate and say, okay, now I want also to have a cost report. Now, Zebra BI actually allows you to change this context on the fly. So all three visuals here, the Zebra BI cards, the tables, and the charts, allow you in the settings to invert variance colors. And this means that basically, with just one click of a button, we change the context. What does this mean, right? And so this is important because now I can just simply replace the costs in my cards. I can do the same here, the sales with the costs, right? And as you see, for now, the decreasing cost is labeled as a bad thing. Of course, this is not the case. So what we do is we simply invert the variance colors. Voila. One click of a button, the context changes, everything changes here as well. So invert variance colors, and we simply just replace the costs and the cost previous year. And that's it. And you already have now 2 pages of your report done. Now, the next step is, of course, to maybe present some trends, right? We can cross-filter, right? So we can do cross-filtering. So I can click on this card. I can click on cross-filter like this, and we can get the information for this entire top level or for particular levels below, right? So we can do the cross-filtering like this, right? So even on the overview page, we can basically get time trend information. But if you want to do proper analysis of like all of these profit centers or regions, you can simply just again duplicate the page. Say this is now a trends page for costs, right? Cost trends. And instead of having these cards here, we'll just delete them, and tables. I will now expand my charts across the entire page. And still, remember, this is just one visual. So one read at a time, it should be really fast. And we'll just drop in our regions into the groups. Voila, I have my trends for the regions, right? In any possible like chart combination that I want, maybe like longer trends, I can see the variances more closely, but everything is properly scaled, right? So we can use different layouts. And again, if I want to create a trends page just for the profit centers, I can replace my region with the profit centers level 1 or 2, depends on how I want to see it. So this is really, really powerful tool, how to visualize and make your reports actionable. Now, yeah. So it is important to start slow, right? To build this in like an easy way. But once you start adding on top of this, you can build like really, really more and more advanced reports, but it doesn't need to be complex. So you can like later on, you can actually use like a disconnected table. So this would be something like this, right? Where you just label your KPIs that you wish to analyze, so the metrics that you wish to analyze, and then based on the selection of these metrics, you basically change what you are showing in the measure, right? And this of course comes later on, but then you have this ability also to switch between costs, gross profit, gross margin, even different formats within the same visualization. And you can build, so this was, yes, you start small, but then you scale it up, right? And as your project will invariably grow, you can get to like really complex and advanced reports where you can switch between like month to date, quarter to date, year to date values, add like additional tooltips without even leaving the page, right? Do analysis on different KPIs within the same page, right? So switching between one KPI to another, and then looking at trends in different ways, and even implementing on the fly how you switch like between a profit center or region. You can just basically give the opportunity to the user to select what they want to see in the end, right? We'll share with you all of these examples so that you can see how those steps were gradually built from that basic scenario to also this one that's a bit more advanced. But all of what my main point is that all of this is pretty simple if you start in the right way. So do your data prep, and with the right preparation, Zebra BI visuals will actually take care of your visualization. And this does not need to be scary and time consuming. You don't need to be a master in design to provide dashboards that provide these clear insights. Now, I will also give the word back to Tilen so that he can also show you another example, which is more common for financials.
What I said was I was admitting that actually I was using the same kind of table before I was introduced to Power BI. So I was living in Excel. I was a financial analyst, also a financial consultant. So Excel was my life. But how can we, get from a table like this, which is kind of a typical export you will get from an ERP or some similar systems, where you have like a monthly development of P&L, for the previous year, then you have actuals, and then you have some plans, and then what you would typically do, you would kind of do some sums, to calculate the full year figures, and then also do some variance calculations, do some basic conditional formatting to try to get to some insights, right? But how do we turn this into Power BI and truly make, financial statements actionable and understandable in a second? So I'm going to go into the Power BI and I'm going to show you what is actually the end result, what you should be, aiming for when you're analyzing or presenting or reporting your financials in Power BI. As you probably know, if you ever dealt with financials, the financial statements do follow a particular structure. Similar to a category background, that is why the table format, and this is what actually we are looking for, the Zebra BI table, is the way to go, right? Is the proper format to present the financial statements. Either it's an income statement or a balance sheet, cash flow statement. I will definitely recommend, if you're presenting a financial statement, I will recommend going with the tables. They allow a more intuitive representation, meaning, if you go from left to right, you can also explain this as, going from oldest data to the newest data. So previous year to the actuals. While from top to bottom may also indicate what is added and subtracted to get to the revenue, right? And at the end, the table format is also closer to the widely accepted accounting standards, which is, something that all financial people and maybe even non-financial people are familiar with. Okay, but let me go also. We also need to touch upon a bit of data transformation, a bit of Power Query. I'm applying Power Query. I won't be actually repeating the steps that Mark already explained, and 90% of steps that I did here is actually what Mark presented earlier. So I'm gonna avoid duplicating the same way, and also in the interest of time. But what is like additional in this approach, here the data is structured a bit differently. We have one column with the accounts, the general ledger accounts, and then we have value columns, from the previous year, from the January previous year down to the plan for the December 2024. Now, what we want to do is we want to turn this. First, we'll need to create a dimension table, which is the account structure table. Why do we do this? We simply reference the master source data, already shown by Mark. We remove other columns. We get to the list of the accounts that are in P&L. And we simply add an index column, also demonstrated by Mark earlier. You do it here. Index column, you start from 1. And this column is actually important because we will want, and let me show it this way, we will want our accounts in P&L statement be shown in a particular order, because that's how financial statements are built, right? You start from revenues, go to the COGS, gross profit, expenses, and then you can derive to the bottom line or net income, and you want it sorted. You want to sort your P&L in that fashion. So this is one table, and another one is a calendar table. Mark actually showed a nice way how to do it with DAX. There is also an alternative way on how you can push it up the BI, or actually upstream in the BI stack. So to do it in the Power Query, as Mark already also mentioned, I'm referencing Mark a lot today, but you will be receiving this material. So actually, it is a great source to find your inspiration, to find how to create some steps in the Power Query or in general in Power BI. So I would really advise to look at the examples and how you can create a calendar table actually in the Power Query. You can select the calendar table, go into the Home tab, open the Advanced Editor, and you will find the M code, right? You can just select all, copy it. I'm going to close this one. And then how you would want to create your calendar table in a separate PBX file, you'll simply go into new sources, add a blank query, then open the Advanced Editor and just overwrite the code, click done, and your calendar table is done and ready. And this is all we need for this case that we're presenting right now.
And just a quick comment here, right? So if you really want to build like a solid data structure and semantic model, the Power Query calendar table is probably the way to go, right? So even better than DAX because it doesn't need to be recalculated each time and so on. So yeah, this is an even better way to do it.
Yeah. So again, coming back to building the foundations right, so then you can scale it up, increase the amount of data, increase the amount of use cases, and this is definitely, as Mark said, the thing that supports it. Then the remaining thing is, we have to deal also with our fact table. Again, we started with, as mentioned, many value columns, which we will unpivot to come up to the table like this. How we do this is, you simply select the column account, go to the transform, and go under unpivot columns, say, I want to unpivot other columns. And as you click this, you get the value column, a separate column with values. And this is also a good practice. We will also want to aim to the narrow fact table as much as possible. This in long term, will benefit us once we scale the model. Then we want to also get used to the time intelligence of the Power BI. Also, Mark address this. So that's why we separate. The data set is as it is. Sometimes we just get what we get, and as this is kind of a mock-up of typical POC, you may have a column which has everything.
Excuse me. So I think that people have a bit of a hard time seeing this. Maybe if you just zoom in into.
Oh, sorry.
So while Tilen is doing this, there are like several questions that maybe we can already address, right? So what kind of data preparation tools are we using? So basically, there are several best practices of what you can do, right? You can do the modeling straight inside of Power BI. You can use external tools like Tabular Editor and so on to also help you with this, right? But the general rule is that you don't even if you have big data models and you need to do a lot of cleaning beforehand, try to focus on a specific area first, right? Don't save the entire world with your first report, with first dashboard. Just start building small and then expand, right? So focus on a specific area, start building up smaller objects, and then based on the feedback the users need, add more. So not start with a bigger model and then gradually take things away, but start with only the things that you need and then gradually add on top of that. That would be my best advice.
Okay, I hope I managed and zoomed in a bit. I hope it's seen better. So what I wanted to tell you, split the columns so that you have the scenarios in one column and then the month year indications in separate columns. Keep the naming of the columns so that you can easily navigate through the model, and then insert data model based on the year month column so that you can that you can make a connection to the calendar table which we created earlier. I'm going to remove some redundant columns as a last step. Also apply the data type checking, to change the types so that figures are integers and text is text. Okay, and with this we are actually done with Power Query. So the last thing that I would like to actually share with you is then how to do the P&L, right? How to create it. Well, simply just drag and drop. Click the Zebra BI tables, expand it over the canvas. And I haven't touched upon the measures yet, but again, as your data model is prepped in a way that it tries to simplify everything, the measures here can also be simple one-line statements, as you can see right here. So we are summing the value of the column value in the P&L table if the scenario is AC, so the actuals. And I'm bringing this into the values and do the same calculation for the previous year. Drop it here. Then I need to add counts into my table like this. By default, the Zero BI visual will try to sort it descendingly. I will just double click on the column header and apply custom sorting. And the remaining thing that I need to do is now, by default, it has actually given me the right sorting order, but you should always check if the sorting is down to the, remember the table of account, the account structure, where you have the index column. And this is the column that we wanted to sort by. So how do you ensure this? You select the visual, select the column that you put into the visual, then go to the sort by column and apply, you want to sort by index. And then you will have the structure of the P&L. Now, what I like to do with financial statements is also change the chart type within the table to a waterfall, which can give us a nice view on, what brings my profit up, what brings my profit down, such as expenses, and and also showing you what's the significance of each account. But this is then supported by also, on the other hand, with clear indication of variances, which accounts are the ones that need to be focused on and explored in depth. So how do I build my waterfall chart? You only need to do it once. Just right click on those categories that are marked as a result. Then the cogs need to be changed to inverts. Gross profit as a result. And you can notice as I see this, the waterfall chart is reacting, is recalculating, and in a few seconds, and just 2 more clicks, I will get my full P&L presented with really best practices. Now, there is also a way how to, there is, you have data in your data set. This is everything within, but, in some cases, as finance people like to do, we like to add some financial KPIs. And I'm going to quickly just show you how to add one. If, if this KPI is not in data set, you don't need to go into writing a new DAX or adding calculations in Power Query. You can just simply right-click where you want to place this particular KPI. Let's say I want to add the gross margin. Sorry for misspelling, which I know is gross profit divided by revenue. You can just simply reference the accounts already in the table. Say that this should be, formatted as percentages. I want to apply italics since it's a relative number, and add it. And just like that, I have it in my data set. Now, the only thing remaining, as I already stressed out earlier, do the annotations, add comments to your reports. It is really an important thing which will allow not just you, to maybe write down some notes for yourself, for your superiors, but also, keep this transparent, keep the historical track record of why something has happened, and maybe some non-financial people will appreciate, because they will now have a chance to, understand how business events that they may have taken in the last month or last 2 months, how they actually end up in financial results. So simply just dropping a comment here. You can also format these comments, apply some formatting, and as a step forward, you can also add a hyperlink to it, to support your comments with some more details, more insights. And one remaining thing that I am really, really happy that we are supporting is with financial statements, you also have plenty of cases like this one, right, where we have R&D and sales and marketing expenses that are going both above the budget, and there is actually one comment that can explain both of them. So you can simply just highlight this area and say, I know I have researched this, and both of these costs are below or above the plan due to this and this reason, and I can simply just comment on the entire region within the or area within the P&L statement. And this obviously also applies for the balance sheet, cash flow statements, and you can also look at, now you can with the slicer, then you can look at the full year and also this particular single months. You can have both views in one visual, keeping it interactive and really dynamic. So this is how you can quickly get to a financial statement like this. Then you can obviously also support it with some charts, to show the seasonality, financial KPIs. Quite important when you want to get insights into your historical performance. Try to forecast something in the future. But as a cherry on top, Mark already mentioned, this switch statement, where you can switch kind of different KPIs on your dashboard. But there's also a case, and we have quite a good guide on knowledge base about how to build this month-to-date, year-to-date switcher, which I really have to say, is a cherry on cake, because each month you as a financial professional or your end user, which might be a financial professional is looking at, what has happened in the last month and how does this play out in the year-to-date figures. It's an imperative that they need to understand this. And with a switcher like this, it's real simple, and we'll share the link to it so you can explore in depth how this is constructed. But essentially, if I give a sneak peek into it, it's a switch statement that looks at what is the selected period, then calculates either actuals or year-to-date actuals for that particular month. And obviously, you can change between months to get to the period you want. What I also like to do, maybe just a simple trick, which is my preferred way of presenting year-to-date and month-to-date financials, is just having them, instead of dropping them into the slicers and building up a big pane of slicers, you can actually drop a period selection into the groups and show month-to-date, year-to-date next to each other, so you can immediately spot, this happened in May, and this is what it means for the month to from January to May performance, and that's it, right? And there are cases where finance people don't really like that many visuals. They know how the P&L is structured. Well, no problem. You also have a toggle where you can change the view to a more simple view, but I will really still recommend, that you keep the formatting or the visuals, at least for the variances, because they really need to be the one that puts spot on the accounts that need focus and that need explanations to be done. Yeah, I don't want to be too long. So with this, I'm actually going to stop sharing this one, and we'll go back to the presentation. Just give me a few seconds, and we'll do a quick recap of what I hope you have learned today. So screen.
So while Tilen is bringing up the screen, let's just reiterate what hopefully, like during this session, you saw that and that this does not, like data modeling, data preparation, and data visualization does not need to be scary and time consuming. And you don't need to have a PhD in design to create dashboards that actually bring insights, right?
Yeah.
Let's say the biggest takeaway is to maybe start integrating visualizations into your reports, right? Because we want to show the insights, right? Not just numbers. We want to the report to show it to the users so that they can understand where they need to focus their attention to.
Yeah. So to try to summarize this and to create something that you can take this with you. Now, first step, remember how Mark presented. You should start with cleaning and transforming your data. Do some basic steps in Power Query Mark show you some steps in Power Query that are applicable to most of the cases. And yeah, it might look overwhelming at first sight, but believe us, it isn't. So it isn't that heavy as it may seem. Then the second step, implement a proper star schema data model. Is important for enabling future scaling of reports. So to go from your first POC project, how to migrating to Power BI, and then developing a kind of a proper business reporting solution that can be used across organization. So adopting best practices such as IBCS, very, 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 very important, because it's not just about the report development. It should also be about the end users, where the requirement usually comes from for the reports. And implementing such standards does mean consistency and clarity for the end users. But on the other hand, if you have the tool which does allow you to implement such standards, this is actually an enabler for such projects. At the end of the day, you will want to assess whether a project has been, the resources have been justified or not. And if you have a tool where you just prep your data and you don't need to actually worry too much about if this is down to best practices, if it's aligned with communication standards for the business, this is kind of a win-win scenario for both the report developers and the end users. And quickly, just a recap of the key elements of actionable reporting. First one, definitely the variance analysis. Second one, use the cards for top-level KPIs, tables for structural analysis, and financial statements. I like this one. Advanced charts for time series, and last but not the least, annotations for storytelling. If you take all those 4 steps, apply them, your report is now built upon strong foundations, and you can start scaling, as mentioned, to a bigger set of data, wider range of use cases, servicing bigger number of departments and users, and also implementing advanced Power BI techniques and more. Because truly, if only organization-wide adoption of Power BI and reporting, actionable reporting, will lead to driving this data-driven culture that you would want to aim for. So take these, you put them to practice, and deliver reports that stimulate actions and create value to your business. And I have quite a good quote from our CEO and the founder, Andrei, and I would like to share it here. Remember, if there is no action, then all reports, all data warehouses are just costs. Only when the decision is made and action is taken, then the data gets the real value. And I couldn't agree more with it. Mark, do you have anything to add to such a statement from Andrei?
No, I think that you summed it up perfectly. And yes, the final step to ensure adoption, right? Start small, right? I repeat, this is really crucial. Start small, gather feedback. Your users, viewers, like stakeholders, they are the ones that should be driving additional building and so on of the dashboards. But yeah, I think the quote was perfect for this.
Yeah. So to put what you learned into practice, I am kindly inviting you, or actually encouraging you, to scan the top QR code, and this will take you to a page to apply to 30 days free trial for Zebra BI custom visuals in Power BI. So you can try whatever you've seen today. You can try it at your own pace. Try it, watch the recording again, follow us step by step, and apply those great visuals to your reports. And you can also scan the bottom one, which will allow you to schedule a quick call with our customer advisory experts, and they will take you what you should take as a next step. So I think we're quite good on time, a bit over time, but maybe we can do a question or two if we have something in the backlog.
Yes, I think we can start. There were some really good questions, so let's just see the most voted ones. So I think we already kind of addressed this one. So what kind of data prep tools does Zebra BI have? We often receive data sets that need more than a bit of cleaning up before they can be used for data modeling, right? So some of the steps that we've showed, right, to basically focus on that singular data model, and then do the basic prep on that one, and then reference it, right? So you don't need to repeat those additional Power Query steps each time, right? And it also ensures that if you change a step or something like that, you don't break the rest of it. But Power BI has some really good data modeling tools inside of it. So you can start with just basic Power BI. You don't need to go to tabular editor and so on. Now, of course, there are additional and advanced techniques where you can do data modeling on the entire tenant and so on within Fabric. Now this is a whole new topic to discuss. But yeah, I think that just the basic Power BI, Power Query data modeling is fine, right? Just reduce it first. Keep the fact table narrow and long, right? Because that's where Power BI is really fast, right? It processes the data well. And then, build additional objects on top of this. Now, the next question is also, can we design different canvas sizes? Can we take advantage of the different canvas sizes? Yeah, and I mean, you saw, right? So Tilen had a bigger resolution screen, right? So he can actually add more density to the screen, right? And you should definitely take consideration of what device you're actually designing, and you can even introduce mobile layouts and so on. But yeah, know on which kind of device you'll be consuming the reports, right? Typically, if you're doing interactive sessions or board meetings, you'll have it on a tablet, right? And you can use and leverage the interactivity of Power BI to walk through the data directly on the spot. Now, I'll leave this next question maybe for Tilen, right? So, greatly appreciate the Power Query transformations, but Power BI mentions to minimize power transformations as one of the optimization techniques. Do you have any comments on that?
I think Andrei answered this question quite nicely in the chat during the webinar. I did have a sneak peek at the chat, but obviously, you would want to push the data transformation upstream as much as possible. Now, if you can avoid using text, then you should try to push it in Power BI if you have a chance. Obviously, we were kind of building on the examples that are kind of a typical POC that we see with our customers, where they kind of have a rough data table already existing, and they want to use that particular table to build Power BI upon it. But obviously, if you can do transformation upstream the process, yes, I think this is a way to go. Okay, we are quite over time, and I see also, I'm gonna just share one more slide, because I've noticed there's been a lot of discussion based on the resources about the academy, about maybe some inspiration files. Yes, first of all, you will get the recordings of the webinar, and you will get the PBX files, so the Power BI examples that we've shown today. You will receive those, so you can explore them and apply this fun stuff in your work. But next to this, you have also live demos with Q&A, live sessions. You have Zebra BI Academy. I've seen a lot of discussion in the chat for it. Visit it, use it. It's really a cool online platform that will get you from point A to the point of actionable reporting. And also all the historical recordings of the webinars are available online, along with Power BI examples, which you may find additional inspirations, either if it comes to financial, sales data, whatever. Just go there, check it out. I'm sure you will find something for yourself. So I think this is, Mark, this is it for today.
Yes.
We'll have webinar happening shortly, so stay tuned and join us on the next webinar.
Correct. And if you haven't tried Zebra yet, just go. Even like most of the stuff that we've showed is also available even within the free version, right? So just try it out on your own data, follow the steps. We'll send you the recording. We'll send you the file so you can look what we did and how we did it. And yeah, make the most out of it. Cheers, everyone.
Oh, cheers. Bye.